Good afternoon. High above the Pebble Beach golf links here on the Monterey Peninsula in California. My name is Amanda Busick, and it is truly an honor to welcome you here to the 70th anniversary of Ferrari in America here at the Casa Ferrari at Pebble Beach. It was a journey that started 70 decades ago when the Ferrari made its way here on American soil. That kicked off a love affair that has spanned generations. As you take a look at 70 classic Ferraris that are here with us for celebration today. But before we settle into festivities today, let's take a look back at the remarkable history of Ferrari in America. Well, those are just a few of the remarkable milestones in the history of Ferrari in America. And today we're going to take a look into the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, all the way up into the 90s as we continue celebrations here at the Casa Ferrari. But before we do that, let me take care of a little housekeeping and welcome in another member of the broadcast. You know him, Mr. Justin Bell.
Well, thank you, Amanda. And, you know, this is definitely my favorite Saturday of the year. Here at the Pebble Beach golf links, Ferraris adorning the first fairway. That's my kind of golf. But, of course, we have got so much to look forward to today. But that's why I sneaked up onto the stage here so you could take a look at this raw carbon SP3. It is such a beautiful vehicle. Something I want to show you about this. 600 SP3s made, only a small subset in this raw carbon. When you make a car out of carbon and the tub out of carbon, when you paint it, exactly how the weave matches up isn't so significant. But when you look at it like this, the craftsman that put this car together had to get it absolutely weave perfect, and I couldn't love it more. This thing revs to 8,500 and it is over 800 horsepower. Now that is my kind of car. But there is so much to look forward to today. This obviously represents the current era of Ferrari, but out there behind me, we have something from every decade, and we're going to be diving into the N.A.R.T cars, the North American racing teams. That's an acronym that is truly part of folklore here in North American racing. We also have cars from the movies we're going to check in on, and something about the story of the 250 California. If you didn't love Ferraris before today, by the end of this, you're going to truly appreciate the journey that the brand has come on, especially here in North America. Well, you know, racing is a bit of a theme today, which is why I'm so excited to introduce my co-host on the talk show, Tommy Kendall. He'll be out there on the stage with me tomorrow at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance, but at the same time, it's important to note he is an 8-time IMSA and Trans Am champion and a Motorsport Hall of Famer. When it comes to cars, he knows his way around, and he's even raced a Ferrari. TK, welcome to Concours Casa Ferrari.
Thanks, Justin. I tell you, it's a sincere honor to be here on the field today with you and Amanda. But inside, I have to admit, even though I raced a 333 SP, inside I feel like a 13-year-old surrounded by his heroes. Because look behind me, this is the field for the 2024 Concorso Ferrari. And these cars just completed a drive on 17 Mile Drive, where 71 years ago, my former neighbor and late great friend Phil Hill won in a Ferrari in the Pebble Beach Road Races. Now, 70 years seems like a long time, but it's also remarkable to think just how far the cars and the company have come in less than the average lifespan. So we're going to take you through some of the intoxicating milestones in each of those decades. We're going to start with what led to bringing Ferrari to America. Luigi Chinetti convincing Enzo Ferrari this was the place for them to be, and going to race on the biggest stage at Daytona and the cars that inspired, then on to how impressionable youth like me and Justin were impacted by Ferraris in movies and TV in the 80s, and then finally bringing it current to today, the Tailor-made program, and exactly how you can personalize and make your Ferrari your own. It's going to be a very fast-paced hour, but for now, let's get back to Amanda to kick things off with a very special guest.
Hey, Tommy, and yeah, we're looking high above the fairway here at Pebble Beach for the celebration that is continuing here as we're going to celebrate 70 decades of Ferrari in America. I do love that we do have two racing drivers joining us on the broadcast today, and I know we're going to get into a little debate as you kind of teased later, Tommy, but it is my esteemed pleasure to welcome on stage the president of Ferrari North America, Matteo Torre. And Matteo, I know I was just talking to you a little off camera about what this weekend means for Ferrari, but for those just watching for the first time, what is the Casa Ferrari?
Thanks, Amanda, and good afternoon, everyone. Casa Ferrari is a place that plays a very important role in this important Monterey Car Week. It's the 8th year that we have Casa Ferrari here in Monterey, and is a place where the Ferrari community can gather and can look at all these incredible cars that are on display during this important week.
As we've already teased in the show so far, we're celebrating 70 years of Ferrari in America here this year. What's the connection?
You know, there is a big connection between America and Ferrari. The story started 75 years ago with Ferrari. The company has been started long ago, but soon after, really, we have been able to import a car in this country. We have been able also to have a very long history that started 70 years ago with a person that he will be named very often during this week, Luigi Chinetti, that had the vision and the ability to convince our founder that in this incredible country there was an opportunity, and the rest is history.
Such an iconic name in Luigi Chinetti. What role do you think he played in nurturing the love of Ferrari here in America?
You know, I really think that it starts from point in common. No? Luigi Chinetti and Enzo Ferrari, they were in the same age. They were colleagues effectively in Alfa Romeo. They were racing both really with different cars, but in the Alfa Romeo brand. Yeah. And he has been able to convince Enzo Ferrari that in America there was an opportunity. And that market, immediately after the founding of the company, he understood the beauty of our cars in terms of race cars and in terms of road cars. And starting from that, 70 years ago, he opened the first dealership. And from that moment on, we had a very long history of successes on the road and on the track.
We're going to talk about some of those milestones for the North American racing team, but you talk about the commercial influence of Ferrari in America, looking at the racing successes and all the accolades that Ferrari has had here over the years. But just taking a look around here at the Casa Ferrari, how strong was this also culturally in America?
You know, I really think that there was a cross-pollination between America and Ferrari. So really, Americans inspired a lot, really, the Ferrari model lineup and many models. But at the same time, I think that Ferrari also inspired the American culture. We saw many Ferraris in the movies, many celebrities, many actors. Really, they really understood the beauty and the spirit of our brand.
Well, as much as during our interview, I'm sure the audience is looking straight through us to some of these cars on the lawn behind us. What are some of the ones that stick out to you?
There are many of them that are really very important, but looking at the 70th anniversary theme of Ferrari in America, there are a few models that are very iconic, that got inspiration also in their name through the American Association. For example, we have the 365 GTB4 that after really few years really have been also named the Daytona, because that's the car that celebrated a very important victory in 1967 when we won really the first and second, third place really at the 24 Hours of Daytona. And then moving forward, we have also the GT section, so where we have the 250 GT California that has been introduced in the late 50s. And after that, we have also some iconic 250 models like the 250 LM and the 250 GTO.
Now, I don't want to put you on the spot, and I'm sure this one might be a little tougher to answer. What's been your favorite moment so far?
This year is important also because we are presenting for the first time after the global preview that we had in Miami, for the first time outside Maranello. So we have a global launch here in the United States. We have the Ferrari 12 Cilindri. The Ferrari 12 Cilindri is a model that got inspiration effectively in the design from the 365 Daytona, and is a model that is also represent very well the beauty of our engine, because the history of Ferrari started with a 12-cylinder, a V12, and the 12 Cilindri is commemorating and celebrating that important engine.
Well, as always, thank you to Matteo Torre for joining us here on stage. I know we have something special with you later in the hour as well, but as Tommy Kendall mentioned earlier, we're going to be running around this place today, covering some of the celebrations over the 70 years of Ferrari in America. But TK, I think you've caught up with something that is so fashionably displayed in Casa Ferrari.
70 years ago, Luigi Chinetti was made the sole distributor for Ferrari in America. But the seeds of that partnership were started late in the 40s with a very significant race car. This 166mm is a car that Luigi Chinetti raced to great effect and convinced Enzo Ferrari to put his faith in him. Chinetti was already one of the big racers of that era. He'd won Le Mans twice, but in this car in 1949, drove 22 out of 24 hours to win the 1949 24 Hours of Le Mans. 2 weeks later, he backed it up with another huge victory in the 24 Hours of Spa. Now, the car itself also has some through lines that carry forward to today. That open top design that's become so vital to the market in America, and that big front engine V12 also. But Enzo Ferrari sold road cars to fund racing. And so in Luigi Chinetti, he found his man, a guy that was an incredible racer, knew what the market wanted, and could sell them as well. So that partnership was off and running and led us to where we are today. But that is not all that happened in the 50s. Justin Bell, what have you got?
Well, you know, when you think about it, everyone in America, all those dashing young men were driving around in all these very heavy, powerful American sports cars. But the word was out. Across the pond, across the Atlantic in Europe, they were driving these very lightweight, very drivable sports cars, and everybody wanted a piece of it. Now, Ferrari responded to Luigi Chinetti's message saying, we want drop-head V12s. We want these cars that are perfect under the California sun. And just take a look at this one. This is the 250 California. This is a car that really established Ferrari, especially over here on the West Coast. You know, when Enzo was convinced that this open-top philosophy was the way to go, just look at that lovely sloping front windshield there. It is truly an icon of the Ferrari lineup, and a car that looks as good today as it did back then. Well, to give us a little more insight, just check this out.
I'm Chad Williams, and I'm CEO of QTS. The problem with me is I never know what I'm saying, and I never say the same thing twice. Ferrari in America is the pursuit of excellence in motorsport, and the opportunity to have this amazing motorsport and our beautiful roads in America come together. Being from Kansas City my whole life is a special treat. People are car enthusiasts in the Midwest. Kansas also has a winning tradition. So I think from Kansas, motorsport, winning, and the opportunity to bring family together, that's a description of Kansas, and that's why we love it here. I think about Ferrari as an extension of our family. Our collection at Q Motorsport is about motorsport and racing. And so the 250 California was a special car. We have looked for one for years. Even though all the 250 Californias are beautiful, we had a very specific mission and purpose to try to find one that had a racing heritage. And so the one that we selected was the second California 250 that was built. One of the two cars that had the racing engine Type 128, and it raced in one of the famous races, Targa Florio. And so to take third in class and to have that motorsport history combined with the California's beauty, it was a winning combination. Well, the Cali T in Tour de France Blue was this amazing modern version of the California. So when you want to think about a car that just get in it and go anywhere you want to, put the top down and enjoy the engine and the performance, it's a modern day equivalent, and it's just an amazing car. When I drive my Ferrari, I feel free. I feel the excitement of the performance and the pursuit of excellence, whether it's in the material of the steering wheel or whether it's in the sound of the engine. And I think it's just an amazing feeling and opportunity.
Well, for me, definitely Ferrari is all about the stories of those owners and how it touches each of our lives. Well, here with Andrea Modena, wonderful to have you, Global Head of Ferrari After Sales and Classique. I guess when you look around the field today, this kind of sums up your job, Andrea.
Luckily, yes. And I have to say that it's incredible, the lineup that has been displayed here, thanks to the huge number of US collectors that among these 70 years of presence of Ferrari in the US have been able to put together something incredible. We just listen a very passionate driver, a very passionate one that is not only collecting cars, but is regularly driving it, which is one of the most important things to keep our history, the history of our founder, alive, and keep this brand the position it is and the position it deserves.
That really must be the philosophy of Classique.
Classic has a clear and, if I may, easy objective, which is to keep alive the heritage of our founder, who was so deep in the automotive world, in the motorsport world, that now we are what we are.
Ferrari today, obviously with Tailor-made and all your programs, you listen to your customers. I know that is a big part of it. But the Ferrari behind us, the 250 California, was the ultimate example of that. Talk us, how was this car developed?
It was 1957. Ferrari already had a Spider in his lineup back at the time, which was a GT car, a 250. So the engine was basically the same, but Luigi Chinetti, a racer, a US racer, we listened some about his history, something about his history a few minutes ago. He was asking Enzo for a specific GT car, elegant but very sporty. And so the team in Maranello developed the 250 California Spider, which won many different races and at the same time was the perfect car to drive along, for example, the California road where the name came from. Then a few years later, some improvement has been requested. So from a long wheelbase that was the very first developed in 57 and presented in 57 in Geneva, a few years later in 60, the short wheelbase has been produced, increasing a bit the powerful engine and reducing the length of the car in order to have a car even more sporty when driving on the circuit.
It's the perfect blend of what made it a great road car and, of course, such a good race car. Well, the 50s were a very important decade for Ferrari, as you can tell. But, Tommy, it started to rock and roll in the 60s a little bit, didn't it?
It sure did, and as in the 40s and 50s, the Ferrari road cars were inextricably linked to their racing activities. Now, the car that is known as the Daytona, the 365 GTB here, is one of the most glamorous, exotic-looking cars, and it's seared in my memory from back in that day. But it was spawned from a decade-long rival on the racetrack. Ferrari absolutely dominated Le Mans with 6 consecutive overall victories to begin the 60s. But then Ford, we know how badly Ford wanted to knock Ferrari off, and they finally won the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1966. Ferrari said, we need to go to Daytona Daytona in '67, loaded for bear, and boy, did they deliver. A 1-2-3 finish for Ferrari, and that inspired this model, which debuted in 1968. Now, I actually have a personal experience. A guy I raced with when I was 17 years old, Jeff Krosnoff. We took Dr. Krosnoff's pale yellow 365 GTB on a trip, kind of Ferris Bueller style, to Palm Springs. Thankfully, it had a little bit happier ending than that one did, but I wasn't the only one that was really impacted by those racing activities and the Daytona. We're going to hear from a couple of owners, one from a 365 GTB and the modern intonation of this car, the first one to officially carry the moniker Daytona, the SP3. Let's hear from those two owners now.
I'm Josh Lewis, I live here in Westport, Connecticut, and my day job is investing in financial companies. So I've always been drawn to the heritage of vintage cars, and that's something you can use and enjoy and look at the same time, and you know, and read about the history of it. Yeah, so Ferrari winning Daytona in 1967 and taking 1, 2, and 3, and then this model taking on that name, just speaks to me. I think it's a really interesting connection and inextricably links Ferrari and the United States forever. I love the new cars. I think they're so well refined, but you know, the old cars it's just like a completely different category. You just get in it, it smells like gas. You just feel it, you know, you get in there, you live it, you feel it, it's all around you. I don't know, I just always loved the beauty of them. It's like rolling art.
You know, it's interesting, I get a lot of my inspiration from the cars, from Ferrari. I think that's where most of my inspiration comes from. My name is Stephen Victor, I'm a music executive and I own a fashion brand. Why did I choose the Daytona SP3? I'd say I have great taste. That's how I describe it. I mean, the first time I saw the car, I just remember being in awe. And I said to myself, I'm gonna get this car somehow, some way. Like, I love all my Ferraris, but I think that's probably the most beautiful one thus far. When I'm driving the SP3, it gets all my creative juices flowing. And I think for me in my line of work, like, that's very important. So that's my go-to. Like, some people go to paint, some people go, you know, do this or do that. I get an SP3. When I get to 9,000, maybe not.
What do I think of when I think of Ferrari?
I would say no compromise.
Enzo.
Like, all different things come into my mind while I'm driving that car.
You think of the racing, you think of the factory and the craftsmanship.
Everything. I mean, I'll say this. I named one of my kids V12. So that should tell you how I feel about the V12 engine.
Well, these cars do generate some strong emotions. So when you see the three behind us that are representative of that 1, 2, 3 at Daytona, we know it's important that we keep them preserved possibly and accurately. I'm rejoined by Andrea Modena. And now on the Classic K side of things, as it applies to race car, it's a little bit different challenge. Talk about what you approach it and what you do for the owners with the race on the race side with Classic K.
Now, speaking about the racing car, we have to say that this is the truly DNA of our founder. So Enzo was from the very beginning extremely meticulous in asking his people, his engineer, to trace everything that was happening during a race. Listening to driver, so also driver comments has been reported in order to improve, because every time he was looking for doing better the next time. Even though he was winning, he was in any case looking to do better. So everything has been traced, everything has been reported, and luckily along these 77 years of history of the company, all the racing report has been transferred to us. So we are now able to go back to that day in a sort of time machine that brings you back, like the car we have just behind us, to that specific moment, incredibly emotional moment in Daytona when 1, 2, 3 crossing the line with that incredible pictures that is in the mind of every one of us.
Now, race cars, having been a racer, on one weekend you have this, you say, I can't see well, we're going to change the rear view mirrors, engines go in and out, different aerodynamic tweaks. How do you keep track of that stuff? And does someone tell you, I want this car to be representative of the car at this exact moment of time?
That's exactly what's happening. We had incredible collectors that are asking to have the car specifically as it has been in that moment, which can be a free practice, which can be a qualifying, or the race, according to the moment he prefers, because usually it's linked to memories of his life. So it's not unusual to have someone asking for a car and the specification it has during the qualifying, even if the day after, during the race, the car unfortunately became DNF, rather than a car that has done incredibly bad during qualifying, but then won the day after, and so the collectors is asking to have the car in that specific configuration, which can mean different aerodynamics, which can mean different livery, or interior in a different way.
Do you ever have to get involved as a referee? Because collectors, you know, sometimes there's three of the same car. Do you guys ever have to weigh in and say, no, this is the actual one? That can't be comfortable, but do you ever have to do that?
And that's one of the most uncomfortable positions we are facing sometimes. Luckily, it's not happening so often, but it happens. Sometimes there are people disputing about which car is the right one, which is the authentic one, and thanks to the report that we have, thanks to the huge documentation we have, we are used to say this is the right one. This is a good one, but not the right one.
Well, that must be an important part, but those must be uncomfortable conversations. Now, I look around and I do not see Justin Bell. Now, if something drags him away from cars like this, it can be only one of two things. Justin, what are you up to?
Well, thank you, TK, for that little thing. It actually reminds me of the middle of the night at Le Mans when I was doing the live TV. I'd go and find the best food. Well, here at Casa Ferrari, these are authentic Italian pizzas made with Italian flour, with Italian tomatoes. And I know you wanted to do this feature. And Amanda, didn't you say you wanted me to bring a to-go box?
Hey, you know, I have a 5-star review waiting for you the faster that pizza gets over here. But man, it just continues to be an absolutely stunning afternoon here in Pebble Beach, a Chamber of Commerce day as we celebrate 70 years of Ferrari. I do want to thank all of our Ferrari faithful friends and family that are here taking in the celebration at Casa Ferrari, and those that are watching across the world. Well, we've already celebrated the 1950s and the 1960s. Now we're going to move into the 1970s, and it's no surprise that the success of Ferrari would continue across America, picking up some of those big endurance wins at some of the toughest tracks in North America. But the 70s was special for another reason. It kicked off customer-based racing in Ferrari. One of the most famous teams that you're probably aware of is that North American racing team that included drivers like Phil Hill and Mario Andretti. We're going to take a look back and learn more about the team affectionately known as N.A.R.T.
So North American Racing Team was started in 1958 by Luigi Chinetti. He took the initials, N.A.R.T., placed them on the car. The team basically was formed to help promote American drivers and bring them into the forefront of racing to a level maybe unachieved by any American racing team before. Well, today from the Oriana collection, we've brought 4 Ferraris that represent the N.A.R.T. mark. The earliest is a 1950 166 Barchetta. It was actually raced here at Watkins Glen at the old circuit in 1950. Then we have a 1960 short wheelbase comp, 250 short wheelbase comp. That car was Chinnetti's import into North America, and that car also raced to 12 hours of Sebring. And we have a 275 GTB4 N.A.R.T. Spider. It's a special car when you think about cars in America, because Luigi Chinetti had an idea to help promote the sales of the 275 GTS. So he asked Enzo to produce Spyders in that 275 GTB configuration. And the car is special also because when it did come to the United States in 1967, it was immediately put on track, 12 Hours of Sebring, where two lady drivers, Pinky Rollo and Denise McCluggage, raced the car and respectfully second place finish, which was amazing. They almost won their class. And then lastly, we brought the iconic 512M prototype from 1971, which also raced here at Watkins Glen in 1971 with Sam Posey finishing 6th in the Can-Am race and also in the FIA race. That car raced at Daytona, Sebring, Watkins Glen, and it also finished 3rd overall at the Le Mans race with Sam Posey driving, along with Tony Adamowicz. Well, to me, it's the ultimate. I mean, when you see the emblem, the Scudetto, it means a lot. It actually, being Italian, to me, the Ferrari is sort of the top level of the car and that you could possibly want to drive. It's definitely something that emotionally inside it's a passion for me to be involved with a Ferrari in any way, especially racing.
And here is one of those beautiful cars, a 1965 275 GTS4, otherwise known as the N.A.R.T. Spider, North American Racing Team. You know, after Ferrari's initial success in racing, N.A.R.T. really started that client privateer racing effort for Ferrari. I mean, the cars were so successful for the privateer. Obviously, a lot of the time they put some of the world's best sports car drivers in to accompany them. This car, for example, was 2nd at Sebring in 1967. Just think about that, the rough 12 hours at that truly demanding track, a track that even today is one of the toughest on the World Sports Car Championship. So to see this car here, knowing its racing heritage, knowing the way it revolutionized and the championships and races that these cars won is truly magnificent. As a driver, I totally appreciate it. Now, something also to bear in mind is that in Ferrari 1965, Ferrari were really on top at Le Mans. But Ford led the early 24 hours of Le Mans for the first few hours, then had mechanical problems. The 3 factory Ferraris were attempting to take the win, but it was actually the N.A.R.T. car that came through and took the top step. And then we had to wait decades, overall, remember, for Ferrari to win at Le Mans in 2023, a feat they repeated in 2024. And for all the guests here at Casa Ferrari, make sure you check out the sister car to that winner at Le Mans, which is out front on display. I think it really does connect everything here from Ferrari's professional factory race efforts to the way it inspired the amateur gentlemen to go and try their hand again at some of the world's top races. Amanda?
Well, JB, thank you for covering all those stories down on the fairway. It looks absolutely gorgeous down there today. I'm a bit jealous of your live look down there, but we talk about all the success in the 70s, and we had Matteo Torre on stage with us here earlier and talked about the culture implications of Ferrari in America, and this is where the 80s really start to sing. We started seeing Ferrari show up on the television sets and living rooms across America and into the hearts of children that would grow up to be the now Ferrari fan of this generation, many who might be here with us today. Let's see if your favorite Ferrari movie car made our cut as we look at Ferrari on film.
Ferrari 250 GT, California.
Oh man, look at that, Testarossa. Something's happened to my foot.
Sometimes I'll be driving my Enzo down Mulholland Drive, really gunning it.
It's the most beautiful car I've ever seen.
Probably gonna want to buckle up, Jack. This thing moves.
Ladies right.
Well, TK, how are you enjoying it out here on the first fairway at Pebble Beach with all these Ferraris?
This is not painful duty.
It's not painful duty. Well, hearing about the influence of Ferrari on culture here in North America, culture also had a big influence on Ferrari in many ways because they elected to put some of these cars into their movies, popular TV shows. Now, as you might tell, I'm a bit more of a Miami Vice guy, which is why that white Testarossa 1987 really does fit my vibe. And I'm going to lobby why that car should be, for me, the ultimate Ferrari in a TV show. It was a bit like us. There was a double act. One was really engaging and funny, and one knew it all, a bit like us. It was a very fast car. It had that flying mirror on the side. It was as though the passenger didn't need to see anything. The driver didn't care what was on the right. For me, it was the ultimate sports car. I loved the way the door panel had all those strikes down it. It was one of my favorite cars.
I can't argue with how cool it was and so forth. And you got to wear your white linen jacket. But well before there was Miami Vice, there was Magnum PI. And so while you're the polished sort of Sonny Crockett type, I relate more to Thomas Magnum, kind of a guy who borrowed a Ferrari, his landlord's Ferrari, and solved capers. I'm pretty sure I watched all 8 seasons of that car. Tom Magnum with that big mustache, the Hawaiian shirts, his head actually popping out of the top of this 308 GTS, but that one is seared in my memory. So because it came before, I don't think there's any question that's the more impactful one.
Well, we won't debate the hairy chest, but we'll get back to you, Amanda, because one of us will win that more than the other.
This is probably the toughest part of the day for me, as you guys are going to make me pick my favorite. And while I do love a good theme, and JB, you showed up in costume today as someone that was made in the late 80s, I am a sucker for a good mustache. So TK, you are the winner of the best car on site here today in the celebration of Ferrari in film. Well, last year we celebrated the 30 years of Ferrari Challenge that kicked off in the 1990s, and we've seen drivers throughout the decade stand on podiums at some of the toughest tracks in North America. Actually, we're going to be racing 3 hours north of here next weekend up at Sonoma Raceway. So to our drivers that are with us here today, congratulations if you found a podium already this season, and good luck next weekend. Let's take a look back at some of the highlights of 30 years of racing in Ferrari Challenge.
Well, you can see there's definitely a theme of how Ferrari influenced the Americas when it came to the automobile, but also how the Americas influenced Ferrari. And we had that all the way from the 1950s through to today. But I mean, as we just take a look at this 342 America from 1952, makes me think of the Super America, which was actually using amazing technology with its functional roof, which was this crazy, innovative, rotating roof. It was the first production car to do that. It really did combine the prestige and allure of the drop top with that functional advantages of a coupe. It was carrying that V12 inspiration all the way through from the California. Now, of course, other cars that we know from the 90s that really reflected that was like the F60. That was a celebration of 60 years of Ferrari here in North America. A totally new chassis design with that power plant drive from the Ferrari F12. And the F60 was one of those that paid homage to Ferrari's long-standing relationship with North America, and it really does honor the 275 GTB4 N.A.R.T. Spada. So just incredible cars. It doesn't matter which era you look at them, you can see the DNA weaving its way through all the way to, I mean, if you look the SP3 up there on the stage, you can see those identifying traits. It is just so beautiful out here. I'm going to find TK. He's somewhere with another beautiful car, I'm sure.
Well, bringing it into the current, we teased at the start that if you're going to have a Ferrari, you might as well make it totally your own, which is what the Tailor-made program is about. If you're a part of the Tailor-made program, you can work with a designer, and the options are virtually limitless. We're surrounded by a bunch of cars that are examples. This particular car on the right is someone that has a serious American flag theme, so there's some inserts on the seats that are stars and stripes. He has 3 cars themed like this that have the red and white and blue stitching as a through line and so forth. Now, these two 296 GTSs might look familiar. They were in Miami this year as part of the Formula One race, where the cars ran with blue accents to celebrate 70 years of racing in America. So for some of the things that Tailor-made can do is you say, do I want denim seats in my car? No problem. Do you want exotic skins of some sort? We can handle that. How about silk accents on your sun visors? No problem. But maybe the ultimate expression of what is possible with Tailor-made is this car. This is a Tailor-made 812 Competizione, and the yellow thing, this represents the sketch pad of the lead designer, and you can see things like where right here on the top of the fender, the arc here has to match up exactly with the top of the arc there. The scalloping, the hash marks are the inlays where the air rushes over the car. Up top, I don't speak Italian, but I can tell that says vortex generators. So this car, and the yellow is significant too, because a lot of the sketches took place on a pale yellow sketch pad. So now this car also raised an incredible amount of money for a good cause, and Justin was there that day, and I know it really left an impression on him. Justin, tell us about what this car did in New York.
Well, incredible to see the impact that it had. But of course, I'm up here on the stage right now with Lucero from Save the Children and Matteo again. Lovely to see. First time we caught up today. Talk about what Save the Children does with the valuable donations that Ferrari raises for the foundation.
Well, first of all, thank you for the question, and thank you, Ferrari, for the generous donation. I can paint you a picture of the type of communities that we serve. Essentially, we usually serve communities that are rural, that are geographically isolated. And something important to know is that 1 in 6 children in America grow up in poverty. And so, you know, what we do is provide programming all the way from, you know, birth to the parents and to the families, all the way through elementary school. And so this takes a variety of forms. It is summer programming, it is nutrition programming, it is early steps to get our kiddos ready for kindergarten.
So, I mean, really, so much. You answer both my questions in one go. It must be the red Ferrari dress that you're wearing. When you come here, though, as a representative, you know the hard work that goes on, but you must truly appreciate when a brand like Ferrari take its time and involves the Ferrari community, which is a very powerful community, to work with you.
Absolutely. We are so grateful, again, for the donation, but also with the connection with Ferrari. And, you know, we put these gifts to very good use all across the United States. And, yeah.
Well, well, thank you so much for being here. Matteo, of Ferrari, you make cars. They're beautiful cars. They're very expensive cars. They're very coveted by people all over the world. It must feel very good for you at the top to know that Ferrari, through the foundation, are doing so much good work.
It's our honor, our privilege, and I think it's our responsibility also to give it back to the society. We have a very long, lasting relationship with Save the Children. We align our corporate social responsibility initiatives into education, and we are happy to support Save the Children in their journey to provide education to the kids.
Perfect. And how can everybody here get involved today?
But you know, we have a Ferrari Foundation that is responsible for the fundraising, and the Ferrari community is very happy to contribute, and we continue to contribute to the cause.
Thank you so much, both of you, and continue good luck, Lucero. That's fantastic. Amanda, over to you.
What a beautiful celebration that we're having here at the Casa Ferrari. Another big round of applause for the dedication from Ferrari. I love what Matteo Torre said there. We have a responsibility. Well, the celebrations went through 7 decades of fun here for Ferrari in America. We started in the 1950s. And TK, I know you've been running around this place all day today, and I hate to put you on the spot with this, but what's your top moment from this hour of celebrating Ferrari in America?
That is a tough one, but I'm going to have to go back to the 166. I talked about how significant it was. I didn't spend a lot of time talking about how absolutely drop-dead gorgeous it is. Just the simplicity of this car just jumps out at you. Matter of fact, when I showed my wife this car years ago, she's not particularly a car person, she says, if you had that car, I would let you put it in the living room. And I said, honey, if we had that car, we wouldn't have a living room. So, but just being close to one is kind of a religious moment for me.
I absolutely love that, Tommy, and I hate to say it that this hour is rounding out, and as Justin Bell makes it on the stage with me, and I have to say my favorite moment here today, and you know, it was a toss-up of a couple things, but I mean, the debate between you and TK, I'm sorry that you weren't on the top set of the podium, but you did find the podium here today with your runner-up finish.
I did, that's true. I think for me, I'm going to recircle it back because the highlight was seeing the 812 that we auctioned off in New York last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it raised over $5 million. I hosted the Ferrari Gala. It's where we launched the Ferrari Foundation, which, as you know, is doing so much work. Just to feel the energy in that room when the car went for this stratospheric amount of money. I mean, that's millions over its list price, which just shows the passion that the brand has. Seeing Flavio Manzoni's artwork, as Tommy said, on the hood, it just showed to me that the sky's the limit when it comes to Ferrari. Last time I saw it was in this amazing room in New York with the lights and John Legend playing. To see it out here on the grass just shows that these cars are not just for looking at, they are meant for driving. So that was my highlight. And as always, a huge thank you to the world of Ferrari for having us involved. And it's great to have you doing what you're doing this year. And I can't wait to go for a walk through the cars because they've only just arrived in full. So if you are here, please make the most of looking at all the cars. And if you're at home, just spread the word. This is the place to be next year.
The white jacket does look fantastic, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, I have to thank Ferrari Style for giving me my fabulous get-up today, and what an honor it was to celebrate 70 years of Ferrari in America with all of you here at the Casa Ferrari today, and those watching across the world. We'll see you next year. Arrivederci.